Hello, students, and how are you today? So it's good to be with you, Mrs. Gold here, and let's overview what we're going to do today with our lesson. Our do now, the first thing we will do is we will respond to a question. Now, this seems a little unusual about poor listening, but here's what I'm thinking, students. Lots of times in math, I have you do error analysis where we look at a problem that's been done incorrectly and we try to identify what was done incorrectly. And maybe that works for things other than math. Maybe that works for things like listening skills. So we're going to think about what is a poor listener, bad listener. So and then that's not what we want to be. We just want to recognize it so we do things better than that. Our objective today will be to review what we've been working on with multiplying and dividing fractions. Our essential questions today ask, how can I accurately, remember, mistake free, not rushing, but doing things perfectly as we can. So, how can I accurately multiply and divide fractions? And what steps should I take? I always say that we can break math down into a few steps and we can all learn it. We can all excel at this. So, we're going to watch today's video about multiplying fractions and dividing fractions, and we're going to complete two assigned pages. So there are 2 pages today. So our exit ticket will ask us to kind of go through these steps. We write mixed numbers as what? And we'll look at that in a minute. And then what is it that we do diagonally? What is it that we do straight across? And what do we do again if needed? So we'll fill those in when we get to our exit ticket. For homework, I'd just like you to finish up anything that we didn't get finished in class. And we've had some schedule changes. So if you are new to class, make sure you have a copy of our notes. So interrupt me, unmute yourself, or turn your camera on, or send me an email. You won't get in trouble. It's not interrupting. We love to hear from you. So make sure you let me know, and we'll see how we can get you a copy of those notes. And again, especially for the new people in our class, we complete our do nows and our exit tickets here in Teams. But our math work is completed on the paper notes because we know that as we use our hand and our pencil, that information kind of travels right up into our brain and helps us to learn. And as always, especially for the new people, I like to have a little something special for you every day. And I thought this turkey was really fun. I loved the colors, I loved the patterns. And it says, a grateful heart is a magnet for miracles. So I guess what they're saying is if we are very thankful for things and very grateful for things, then good things will come to us. And I think that in my life, when I've been more thankful and grateful, I have attracted nicer things to happen to me. And I hope that happens to you too. For our do now, ooh, this is a little unusual for us, but you know what? It's sometimes we need to look at this. What does bad listening look and feel like? We talked a lot this week about ears, and then that acronym for those active listening skills of responding back to people and asking questions. But you know, what does it look like when somebody's not listening? So, are they looking down? Are their hands in their pockets? Are they looking away? Are they on their phone? This is a big one. If you need somebody to listen to you and hear what you have to say, maybe you just don't want them on their phone right now. Maybe you'd like them to put that phone down. So, I love the phones, but I also think that it's important to put it down sometimes. So I would like you to write a sentence or two about what is poor listening, bad listening look like. And then when you do that, I want you to avoid that and not model that. So we'll come back to our exit ticket when we are finished with our assignment. So let's get started. Our topic today is a review. We're going to multiply and divide fractions. My fancy and, they call that, I think it's an amperes and. Multiply and divide fractions. So let's look at these steps. We're going to write all mixed numbers as improper fractions, okay? I know sometimes we've done it where we've added and subtracted the whole numbers, but today we're going to write them as improper fractions. We're going to simplify. Okay, I think you're thinking about your exit ticket already. If you are, good for you. We're going to simplify diagonally, and we'll talk about what that means. We're going to multiply the numerators straight across to get the new numerator, and then we're going to multiply those denominators to get the new denominator. And sometimes we will need to simplify when we are through. So we've got 1/2 times 4/5. So we can look and see, is there anything we can simplify here? This is our simplifying diagonally. So I see the 2 and the 4, and I can say, both of those are multiples of 2. 2 is a factor of itself and of 4. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Multiplying straight across, now the multiplication, numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. 1 times 2 is 2, 5 times 1 is 5. And if you cross simplify in the beginning, like I did, very often you will not need to simplify at the end, and that is our final answer. So again, we have a 1 and a 5. We have 1/9 times 3/5 for number 2. And 1 and 5, there's no, if you have a 1 in the numerator, there's no more simplification you can do with that. But I see this 3 and I see this 9. And I know that 3 divided by itself is 1, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. So I've already simplified, and now I multiply straight across. 1 times 1 is 1, and 5 times 3 is 15. Again, because I've simplified at the beginning, I'm already done simplifying at the end. That doesn't always work out like that. Sometimes more simplification is needed. Okay, so today we're still working with these. Now we've got a negative sign. We need to apply the integer rules. So a negative times a negative is a positive times a positive is a positive. But when you mix them up and you have a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive, you will have a negative. So there's no simplification we can do. So we're going to go ahead and multiply. 1 times 1 equals 1, and 7 times 5 equals 35. However, let's look at that sign. We have a positive times a negative is a negative. And let me remind you something, students. If we have negative 1 over 35, or we have negative 1 over 35, or we have 1 over negative 35. Okay, all of those equal the same thing. So when we multiply the negative across, it doesn't matter whether we give that negative to the numerator or the denominator. Either way, the answer is negative 1/35, a final answer. So today we're going to turn these mixed numbers into improper fractions. And remember our steps from when we first learned them. We're going to multiply the denominator by the whole number. So that would be 5 times 2, which is 10. And then we're going to add the numerator. 10 plus 1 equals 11. And that's our new numerator, 11. But the denominator stays the same. So we have 11 over 5 times 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 more is 5, and we keep the denominator of thirds. 11/5 times 5 divided by 3. Now, we can do some cross-canceling here. We have, let's use the highlighter today. We've got this 5 in the denominator and 5 in the numerator. So we can go ahead, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. 5 divided by 5 is 1. And now we multiply straight across. 11 times 1 is 11. And 1 times 3 is 3. Now we have an improper fraction. We want to get it back to a mixed number. So we will divide 11 by 3. And let me actually do that so we have a little bit more room here. And I think I need a slightly darker color as well. So let's do slightly darker orange. 11 divided by 3. And 3 goes into 11, 3, 6, 9, 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract. And we have 2/3 left over. So that equals 3 2/3. And let's look at number 5. We're going to first turn this into an improper fraction. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 more is 4. So that would be -4/3. And times 1/2. Now we have some cross simplification that we can do here. So let's choose another color so we can make it very clear. We've got a 2 and a 4. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 divided by 4 is 2. So we've got a negative sign here. We can't forget that. So we'll multiply across. 2 times 1 is 2. 3 times 1 is 3. And we've got that negative sign. And because we cross simplified first, our answer is already in its simplest form. So here, our first number, -2/3, is ready to go. But here we will turn this -2 4/5 into an improper fraction. So 5 times 2 is 10. And then we add the 4 to get 14. And that's our new denominator. And again, this is negative. So 14/5. Now, there's nothing we can do to simplify this. 2 and 5 are not factors and multiples of each other, nor are 3 and 14. So we're going to have some big numbers we're going to have to deal with. So first of all, a negative times a negative is a positive. So our answer will be positive. 14 times 2 is 28. 5 times 3 is 15. Now that is an improper fraction. So we're going to take that 28 and divide it by 15, which it will go 1 time. And when we subtract, we have 13/15 left over. So that our final mixed number answer will be 1 13/15. And that's our multiplication review. Now we're moving on to a division review. And again, we're going to write all mixed numbers as improper fractions. Then we'll change the division to multiplication. We've been doing a bit of this. And then we're going to flip the second fraction. This is the number I want you to remember, to its reciprocal. That's the language we've been using. Some people use this acronym KISS, keep the first one, keep it, switch. I just think it's better if we just understand exactly what we're doing. So now we're going to multiply the numerators up straight across, okay, to get a new numerator. Multiply the denominators straight across to get a new denominator, and simplify if needed. So the only thing that's really new is this second step where we change the division to multiplication and flip the second fraction to its reciprocal. So we have done some of this. So this is a little bit of review, but let's get started. So we have 1/6 divided by 1/5, which we will rewrite as multiplication. And when we do that, we see, oops, I wrote a 5 instead of a 6. We see that we have no simplification that we can do. 5 times 1 is 5. 6 times 1 is 6. And that's the final answer. So now we have 3/4 divided by -1/2. So that we rewrite that 3/4 times negative, still negative, we don't change that, but we do find the reciprocal, which is 2/1. Now we have an opportunity here to cross simplify. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Multiplying straight across, 3 times 1 is 3, 2 times 1 is 2, and this is positive times a negative, so it's negative. However, 3/2 is improper. So if we divide 3 by 2, it will go one time with 1/2 left over. And let's not forget the negative sign. So the final answer is -1 and 1/2. So why don't you try the next 4, number 9, 10, 11, and 12. Pause the video and then come back and let's see how you did. Okay, so let's see how you did. I hope you tried them on your own. So first we rewrite -4/7, doing number 9 here, times -9/8. So we have a negative times a negative, so our answer will be positive. Negative times a negative is positive. We also have an opportunity to cross simplify, because 4 goes into itself one time, and it goes into 8 two times. So we multiply across. 1 times 9 is 9, and 7 times 2 is 14. Now remember, we had a negative times a negative, so our answer is positive. And that's simplified. That's a complete and final answer. Now we need to turn these mixed numbers into improper fractions. 10 times 2 is 20, plus 1 is 21. We put that over tenths. We multiply, and we have a negative here. So we've got -5 times 2 is 10, plus 4 is 14 over 5. But what do we have to do? We have to flip that. So I'm going to write the 14 over 5 up here, and then I'm going to flip it down here. Now, here's what I see. I see lots of opportunity to cross simplify. 5 goes into itself one time. 5 goes into 10 two times. 21 and 17 are both divisible by 7. 21 and 14, are both divisible by 7. So 14 divided by 7 is 2, and 21 divided by 7 is 3. Smaller numbers are better numbers. Don't forget, we have a negative on the right side fraction. So we're doing positive times a negative, so our answer will be negative. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4. I almost wrote 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And that's final answer. We don't need to simplify that any further. In number 11, we have a negative times a positive, so our answer will be negative. We've got two mixed numbers, so first we convert those to improper fractions. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 2 is 30. So we have a negative 30 over 7. The denominator stays the same. And I'm going to actually write out the division on this one first. So divided by 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, divided by 4/3. Now I'm going to go ahead and flip that, so I'll rewrite it as multiplication, negative 30 over 7 times 3 over 4. Now, I cannot simplify the 3 and the 7, but I do have an opportunity with this 30 and this 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, let me change my color, and both of those are divisible by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 30 divided by 2 is 15. That's going to make my numbers a little bit smaller and easier to work with. I still have this negative. Negative 15 times 3 is negative 45, and 7 times 2 is 14. So now I need to divide to get that back to a mixed number. I'm going to move over here. where I have a little more room. So I will divide 45 by 14, and I'm going to take a guess at 3. 3 times 14, well, 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 3, 42. Okay. And then I subtract. 5 take away 2 is 3. And that leaves 3 and 3/14. Remember, though, this is a negative times a positive. So my answer is negative 3 and 3/14. And our last division problem, we need to convert this to an improper fraction. But do you remember what we need to do on the right here? We need to simply put that over 1, and then we will invert it to its reciprocal in a minute. But first, let's deal with this mixed number, and we'll turn it into an improper fraction. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11 over 4. Instead of divided by 5 over 1, it's times 1 over 5. There's no cross canceling I can do, so I'll multiply straight across. 11 times 1 is 11. 5 times 4 is 20, and that's our final answer. So now we've got some word problems. I love these word problems. The Statue of Liberty is 305 feet tall. A nearby building is 4/9 as tall. So let me put a box around my numbers. So the Statue of Liberty, so there she is with the flame. That's the Statue of Liberty, and that's 305 feet tall. There's another building that's not as tall. It's about 4/9 as tall. How tall is this building, this shorter building? So we need to multiply 305 times 4/9. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's set up our problem. 305 times 4 over 9. So we can put 305 over 1. I'm not sure if we can cross simplify. I don't think we can. No, we can't. So we just multiply across. 305 times 4 is 1,220. You can use a calculator for that. 1 times 9 is 9. Now, that's a wildly improper fraction. So we want to go ahead and divide 1,220 by 9. And 9 goes into 12 one time. 1 times 9 is 9. Subtract. Okay, 9 goes into 32 3 times, because 9 times 3 is 27, and we subtract. And that gives us 5. Bring down the 0, and 9 goes into 55 times, because 9 times 5 is 45. We subtract. We have 5/9 left over. Remember, this is our new numerator. The 9 is our denominator. So 1,220 over 9 is the same as 135 and 5/9. One final thing. I want us to go back and look at the unit of measure that we're dealing with, which is feet. So let's put that in our answer. 135 and 5/9 feet, and that is how tall this building is, the smaller building. 135 and 5/9 feet. And that is the symbol for feet, that just one mark. This is inches, that's feet. So let's make some room for the next problem. And let's pick a new color. So Sarah has 27 3/4 feet of wire to make bead necklaces. If each necklace requires 1 2/3 feet of wire, how many necklaces can she make? Now, let's be careful. When we say how many necklaces, are we going to make a part of a necklace? So we're going to get an answer that's a fraction, but we're going to round down because what's going to happen is we're going to have some leftover wire. And we're not going to make a half of a necklace or a fifth of a necklace. So, but we're only going to make whole necklaces. So that means we're going to round down. So, and we're going to divide because we're dividing the total amount of wire she has, 27 and 3/4 feet. We're going to divide that by how much she needs for each necklace, which is 1 2/3 feet. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn these into improper fractions. So 27 times 4 is 108 plus 3 is 111. So that's 111 over 4, and you could use a calculator for that. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5/3. Now let's set up our multiplication. 111 over 4, both positive numbers, times the reciprocal of 5/3, which is 3 over 5. And there is no cross canceling that we can do with this. We're cross simplifying. 111 is not a multiple of 5, and 4 is not a multiple of 3. So 111 times 3 equals 333. 5 times 4 equals 20. Now that's an improper fraction. Let's find out how many groups of 20 over 20 are in there. So we'll take 333 and divide it by 20. And 20 into 33, there's one group of 20. 1 times 20 is 20. 33 minus 20 is 13. And we bring down the 3. 133 divided by 20 is going to be 6, because 6 times 20, well, 6 times 2 is 12, and we just add the 0. So that would be 120. And that would, when we subtract, we have 13/20 left over. So that would be 13/20. Now, the answer to this problem is indeed 16 13/20. But remember, Sarah is making necklaces. Here's a necklace. She's not going to make a part of a necklace, but what she can make is 16 whole necklaces. So that is our answer, because they asked us how many necklaces can she make. Sarah can make 16 necklaces. And that's how you would write that answer. So let's go back to our exit ticket. So here we go. Complete the steps for multiplying fractions. Write mixed numbers as improper fractions. And then simplify diagonally. Excuse me. Then multiply straight across. Straight across. Numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator. And then when you get to your answer, you simplify again if needed. Not always needed, but sometimes it will be needed. So, terrific job today. I hope you're getting much more comfortable with fractions. When you get into algebra, if you're comfortable with fractions, it will really help you a lot when you get into those equations with fractions in them. I'm proud of how well you're working. I'm proud of how well you're doing with distance learning. And I love teaching you. So thank you very much. As you leave, please, again, I want you to enjoy this beautiful picture. A grateful heart is a magnet for miracles. So remember, students, practice your math, and with practice, you'll be great.